Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashum, Yahushai, Bahashum, Ruach Kodash. I want to give double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and grace and peace to you elect around the four winds, believing and pushing this truth in all sincerity. May the blessing of election be upon your houses. This is your fellow servant, Rakoya from the GMS Orlando camp, coming at you with another impromptu lesson. And the title of this lesson is The Black Community is Full of Grifters and Vultures. All right. And tonight's lesson is inspired by this video I was watching from Tone Talks. And he was getting into the recent Invest Fest that took place in Atlanta a few weeks ago that was spearheaded by these guys from Earn Your Leisure. You know, and for any brothers who know, Earn Your Leisure is another channel that's ran by Jakes who like to capitalize off of the funds and the misplaced hope of our people, And it had me thinking about this here in Isaiah, the 1st chapter, and the 26th verse. Because the Lord spoke about restoring the judges as at the first. All right, this is Isaiah 1:26. And I will restore thy judges as at the first, and thy counselors as at the beginning. Afterward, thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. All right, when you get into that word for restore, on the etymology online, it says to give back. It says to build up again, which we understand that the tabernacle of David is being rebuilt right now through the Spirit. It says to reestablish, to renew. You jump down, it says to cure, to heal, to bring back to a vigorous state. All right. And the reason why the Lord said that he was going to restore his judges is at the first is because up here at the 5th verse, he mentioned how the whole head was sick. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 5. Why should you be stricken anymore? You will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick and the whole heart faint. And the head is representative of the leadership of the nation of Israel. And as it stands this day, the leadership of the nation of Israel is in a dead state. All right, it's full of vultures, opportunists, grifters, all right, men who like to capitalize off of the funds and misfortune of our people. All right, the leadership of the nation of Israel is in a dead state. That's why the Lord said he is going to restore the judges as at the first, all right, bringing it back to a vigorous state. And that begins now with the remnant. Okay, the remnant who are exercising proper judgment through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, who are giving the people what they need in order to nourish their souls and bring them to repentance. Because the current leadership is leading our people straight into error. You get that in Isaiah 9. This is Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 16. It says, for the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed. Therefore the Lord shall have no joy in their young men, neither shall he have mercy on the fatherless and widows. For everyone is an hypocrite and an evildoer, and every mouth speaketh folly. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. And I wanted to get that also in the GNT. I have the GNT Bible over here with me. This is Isaiah 9:16 in the GNT. It says, those who lead these people have misled them and totally confused them. All right. And that stands for the current leadership, the current head of the nation of Israel. And that goes for 2/3 of the nation of Israel, and even you niggas in the nation of Israel who call yourself leaders too. Because you have grifters and vultures amongst the nation of Israel as well, who like to capitalize off of the hope, and the misplaced zeal of our people, selling them breakdowns and counsel, speaking unto them smooth words and giving them a false vision, which really is likened unto filleting the flesh off off their backs. Let me see if I get that in Micah. Let's see. right, this is Micah chapter 3. And I'm going to start at verse 1. It says, "And I said, Hear, I pray you, O heads of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel. Is it not for you to know judgment, who hate the good and love the evil, who pluck off their skin from off them, and their flesh from off their bones, who also eat the flesh of my people, and fillet their skin from off them, and they break their bones and chop them in pieces, as for the pot, and as the flesh within the cauldron." All right, and the way that they do this is by speaking unto our people false doctrines, giving them a false hope, not declaring the full truth of the matter, not exercising proper judgment, not teaching our people how to exercise proper judgment according to the will of the Lord, not proclaiming the names, not giving them a sure vision, a sure word. That's essentially filleting the skin off of the backs of our people. When you lie, you wage war against the person that you're lying to. And not only is this prevalent amongst 2/3 of our people, but it's also prevalent amongst the nation of Israel. And that's why the Lord said that he was going to restore his judges, because without the Lord restoring the judges, our people are headed to a fast slate to destruction, just like the judges that lead them. It says, "Who also eat the flesh of my people and fillet the skin from off them, and they break their bones and chop them in pieces, as for the pot and as the flesh within the cauldron." All right. And I want to get this back in Isaiah 9 in verse 16 in the GNT. It says, "Those who lead these people have misled them and totally confused them. And so the Lord will not let any of the young men escape, and he will not show pity on any of the widows and orphans, because all the people are godless and wicked, and everything they say is evil. Yet even so, the Lord's anger will not be ended, but his hand will be stretched out to punish." All right, and the Lord isn't going to, forbear these wicked doers for too much longer. Their just meats are coming around quickly, swiftly. And it's really no respect, for a nigga that likes to capitalize off of the misplaced hope of our people. That's one of the most grimiest things that you can do as a man of the nation of Israel, especially if the Lord has given you the capability to understand and have a working knowledge of the Bible and prophecy. That's one of the most grimiest things that you can do. And the Lord said this again. He said, "And so the Lord will not let any of the young men escape, and he will not show pity on any of the widows and orphans, because all the people are godless and wicked, and everything they say is evil." All right, the Lord's hand is going to continually be stretched out for judgment, all right, to those who fillet the skin off of the backs of our people through smooth words, and through this false hope. Before I get into the video, I want to get what the definition for a grifter is. And this is off of Google. It says, "A grifter is a con artist. They trick people out of money or things through lies and fake stories. Instead of using force like a thief, a grifter uses charm, cleverness, and deceit to gain trust." It says traits of a grifter: use smooth talk and charm to make people feel safe. And what does it say in Isaiah? I believe that's the 28th chapter. All right. People say speaking to us smooth words. All right. Because that's what our people want to hear at the end of the day. They've been afflicted. All right. They've been consumed. They've been chastised. And the majority of our people really don't understand the will of the Lord and how the Lord works. So at the end of the day, they think that, at the end of the day, the only thing that they want to hear is smooth words. They want to hear of a hope. They want to hear that their situation is going to get better. They want to hear that there's an immediate answer to their problems. And that's what these grifters, these 2/3 grifters and the 2/3 grifters of the nation of Israel, given to our people by saying that the mark of the beast is anything but the chip, by saying that, John the Baptist wasn't in the truth, by saying the Apostle Paul's writings can't be verified, by saying Yahushua didn't do any miracles, by saying the name doesn't, it doesn't matter, by selling breakdowns, by selling counsel. They speak into our people smooth words, which is what they want to hear. And that's the trait of a grifter, to speak smooth words to gain over the favor of the crowd. It says a grifter is a con artist. They trick people out of money or things through lies and fake stories. And that's why the Lord said ultimately, that the mouths of these people have to be stopped. This is Titus chapter 1 and verse 10. For there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision, whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they ought not, for filthy lucre's sake. And it's all for money. It's all for money. We've seen how the love of money has rooted out a lot of men from this truth of ours. The knowledge is puffed up, and they've used that knowledge to not only puff themselves up, but to bring some form of monetary gain to themselves as well. To prop themselves up amongst the congregation, amongst the audience that they're frequent. And ultimately to draw in funds, man. That's why the Lord said their mouths must be stopped. Because the Lord isn't the author of confusion, and all they spread is confusion and lies. And it's about time for all of this to stop, man. It's about time for all of this to stop. There's no respect for a nigga who tries to make gain off of the Lord's sheep. That's the spirit of an Edomite, man. But going back, it says it gains trust before asking for money. It lies about who they are and what they sell, and it avoids honest work to live off of other people. And that speaks to the very nature, two-third grifters, vultures amongst the leaders of our people. And a lot of these niggas who, like to, ascribe themselves as being, so-called smart, so-called intelligent, like to study things like Aristotle's ethos, to gain over the favor of the crowd when they're speaking, and you see this a lot, even within the nation of Israel sometimes, niggas take this approach to win over the favor of the crowd or to gain credibility amongst the congregation by using these certain tactics, which these niggas think they smart. They really think they smarter than the Lord. But you're going to come to find out that you weren't smarter than the Lord, man. The scripture said that the Lord's eyes are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. If nobody see you, the Lord see you. Hell, and the Lord has given the vision and the eyesight of the brothers to see you as well. Majority of the time, just don't say nothing. Just give you enough rope to hang yourself. Because you know how that's going to work out with the Lord. The Lord don't respect men like that, man. But it says, I was reading somewhere where, they say that you only have to be more knowledgeable than 10% of your audience in order to gain credibility. And niggas like to use this shit, the 10% rule, and read this here. It says, to be seen as an expert by a general group, you only need to know a little bit more than them. You just have to beat 10% of the people in that room. So when we see these niggas with these live streams, these red pill content, even with this financial content and some content that's pushed by some Israelites, that gain the credibility of the crowd because they seem to know a little bit more than what, the crowd knows. They did diligent studying, they memorized certain points, and they're able to make it seem like, they possess this infinite, well of knowledge that people need to subscribe to, to get themselves. It says, while small gap works, most people know very little about hard topics. A tiny bit of study puts you past the start line. People trust anyone who sounds sure of themselves. And it says how to use this idea. Pick a niche, focus on a small topic, read a few good books or articles, speak clearly, share what you learn in plain words, stay humble, do not pretend to know everything. And a lot of niggas use these tactics to try to gain in credibility, to ultimately victimize, the Lord's sheep. Which I want to get one of these. Let me see. Well, I believe this is it. Yeah. Bear with me. Because it's been a while since I looked this up. Let me just get it from this. All right, it says, what is ethos? Ethos is the leader's character, credibility, and authenticity. It's your ability to convey integrity and goodwill while also establishing authority and expertise in a domain. Ethos is communicated through tone, style, communication skills, and body language. How you deliver a message impacts how credible you come across. And this aspect of ethos is what often gets the most attention. However, ethos is also about aspects that are built over time. Your reputation, consistency in words and in actions, and a combination of trust and expertise. Ethos can be characterized as authenticity, trustworthiness, character, and credibility. These cannot be manufactured overnight, and people know when they see it. And most people don't. Most people don't know how to differentiate between those who are feigning credibility, feigning authenticity, and those who are actually integral and authentic through the word of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Again, our nation is likened unto sheep, and sheep are very gullible. Sheep are easily led. They go wherever the shepherd leads. And if it sounds good, if it looks good, 9 times out of 10, they're going to follow it. It's just how our people work. Very few of our people possess the capability to differentiate between an authentic shepherd. And that's why only a third of the nation of Israel is going to receive salvation, because only a third of the nation of Israel can identify, and pinpoint who the proper teachers and leaders of the nation of Israel are and where the true word of the Lord is coming from. The rest of them are either beguiled through grifters on the left hand side or on the so-called right hand side by these Israelite leaders. And this is a culture. This isn't isolated event. This is a culture amongst the so-called black community. It's full of vultures who like to capitalize off of the dead, man. Spiritually dead, mentally dead. Our people are dead. And you have some who have a little bit of life in them who like to circle around and capitalize off of that lifelessness. And this is a topic that I really resonate with, because, I was around niggas like that in the world who call themselves smart, so-called smart niggas, so-called intelligent, Negroes who like to use smooth words and intelligent speaking points to try to win over, audiences and make points. who like to take advantage of certain people who don't possess the same intellect. I have no respect for niggas like that. That's one of the most grimiest niggas you can meet, man. Like to study different aspects of public speaking so they could portray the right body language. They could use the right tone of speech. They can use the right words to make you feel a certain way when they're presenting a message. And that's what these niggas are constantly doing, man. And that's why the Lord is going to stop the mouths, man. The Lord is going to stop the mouths of these niggas soon, man. Soon. Because this community of vultures, grifters, and opportunists must stop. The water Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, that the judges as at the first are being restored through proper judgment. Because otherwise, shit like this is going to continue. Let me play this video.
Craziness at the Earn Your Leisure Invest Fest. I talked about Earn Your Leisure, I think about 2 weeks ago. I was sent a video where there's a gentleman walking around with a gas pump in his hand talking about he can change plastic into gas or fuel.
Invest Fest, Atlanta. Listen when I tell you, I've created my own gas station.
A lot of this is bordering on insanity in my view. It shows a total lack of understanding the complexities of business, but it also shows that InvestFest ain't nothing but some mess. Let's get
it really plays on, the lack of information and intelligence in our people, because our people continually sell this idea that finances is going to get us out of this predicament as a people. That building black is going to get us out of this predicament we find ourselves as Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. And with that hope, that things can go back to the way they were in the 60s, where we had our own, and we were thriving in a sense. We were communicating amongst ourselves, building with one another, doing business with one another. That same ideology and that same way of life can continue and thrive even more if we put in the work now. That they capitalize off of that hope and that ignorance, man. Not knowing that the Lord is the only solution to this problem. And the Lord has shown us that through these different endeavors and enterprises that have risen up throughout the years, the Black Panthers, Marcus Garvey, all of these different movements, all of these different enterprises that rose up in their time and fell, are all, to show us how the Lord was the only true solution. That this ministry was the only thing that was destined not to fail. Like it says in Acts the 5th chapter. This ministry was spearheaded by the Heavenly Father through his only begotten Son. And with that, we cannot fail with this ministry. But with everything else, we failed because it was of our own volition. It was of our own, thought. We thought that we can bring about our own salvation through other means. And the Lord has shown us time and time again that that will not happen.
So I want to be clear. So you have this thing, inventor Julian Brown just revealed on stage at InvestFest that he created a gas station that runs on plastic. Now, what he's actually created isn't a gas station. To make gas, you got to get emission standards, all kind of things. But in addition, what he created isn't feasible to actually create even fuel. Is it possible to make plastic into fuel? Yeah, that's been around a long time. What he shows you is he walking around with a gas pump matching his suit, bruh. So InvestFest, and we're gonna get into the two people, the PE teacher, former PE teacher, and then the other guy who worked for his parents in finance for undisclosed amount of time. Allowed this man to come on stage with a gas pump that matches tie. He walking around on the stage with a gas pump in one hand and a microphone in the other, and y'all don't understand how crazy this look. A lot of times where you see these kind of like displays aren't in America. or let alone a developing country. You see this in the undeveloped third world countries. You see it throughout Africa, actually. We saw the thing where they was drinking the juice and thought it could heal anything in their body. The fact that InvestFest has got into this inspirational porn around finance.
And that's what it that's what it is. It's inspiration. It's inspirational porn that our people sell, man. That's exactly what it is.
It's just a direct reflection of who you guys are listening to. Come on, bruh. This is what this look like. The same green little pump. So these are the two gentlemen. We'll talk about this briefly. We already went through it in the other show. You can get the more detailed view in the other show. You have this gentleman here is a former PE teacher that went to Manhattanville College. The only time I've seen the Ville at the end is the tunes, the Looney Tunes, like, you know, when they were man.
Hey, Jake clowning. Let me get
As a PE teacher and stuff. And these are the people behind this InvestFest, and what they do is they Manhattanville, which I know he worked at his parents. They actually are like a t-shirt company or a sweatshirt company, because when you go to the website, this sweatshirt that this man has, Assets and Liabilities, is on the website for $100, I think. And there's no economics, no straighter Hormuz, no bond yields. I talked to you guys about bond yields last week. No interest rates, no mortgage rates, no nothing. It's just you can buy this and you can use Shop Pay, which is the most predatory thing out there, to do installment payments to buy this $100 sweatshirt being sold by people that says Assets and Liabilities while you don't have no assets. And you're basically a debt slave. But now you're a debt slave to them through the sweatshirt. You got these people painting themselves like rappers that are copies of other people.
and that's something that has spread even into the Israelite community. And it's something that spread even into the Israelite community.
Bring this on the
Atlanta. Listen when I tell you. I've created my own gas station that turns plastic waste into gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. What I do is I implement microwaves, which are powered off of solar, to then turn plastic waste into fuel with my machines. It works through the process of this. Plastic is made of petroleum. I want you to think about plastic as the solid form of petroleum. Just like how
He's teaching something that you find in a local high school at the science fair and telling it to you like it makes sense.
This is the solid form of water. You put plastic inside of a chamber that has no oxygen or has no air inside of it, and then from there, the microwaves will heat up the plastic and break it apart on a chemical level, but it can't catch on fire because there's no air or no oxygen. And a fire needs air to exist, right? So without air,
he had to put that gas pump down to tell this story.
the plastic instead breaks down back into its petroleum components, into petroleum vapor.
It sounds real
And that petroleum vapor can then be condensed back into liquid petroleum, just like how water can turn to steam and condense back into water like rain.
He done told us a lot of stuff here. But the truth is, and let me get back to this. Don't none of it make no sense. I'm going to show y'all why.
And when you get into a lot of the speaking points that these jakes have, man, you know, they like to overload you with information, but a lot of it really don't make sense. You know, a lot of the shit that Jake is talking about is easily debunked in the scriptures, but you know, since Jake doesn't do their due diligence and study to show themselves approved, they really can't differentiate between the authentic teachers of this word, man. You know, they just lean on somebody to keep telling them, you know, what they want to hear at the end of the day, man. That's why 2/3 is destroyed, because of the lack of knowledge. And it's not because the knowledge isn't there, it's because they reject the knowledge, man.
You still have to refine that. He didn't tell you that part about the cost to refine. This is what this looked like to me. Let me show y'all. Let me show y'all what this crazy this look. It looked like this. him messing with that machine. Plastic waste into you work for his parents. For y'all can get a sweatshirt for teach you about finance, and then he went and worked for his parents. And you pay $300 to hear it.
Right, so it's always a paywall, man. You know, it's always a paywall with anything that Jake is doing. You know, they'll reel you in, smooth words, you know, make it seem like, you know, they have knowledge that's going to be sufficient for your growth, you know, and your salvation. Then somewhere along the line, it's a paywall. You know, it's a breakdown that you got to pay for. That's it's top secret. It's a counsel, you know, one-on-one. You get counsel on you and your wife and, you know, what you're doing in your life, one-on-one with the main teacher that you've been looking up to. You know, behind everything that Jake does is a fucking paywall. And that's why the Lord set up the true prophets to not to stand boldly and to not sell this word, man. You know, but to give it freely. The Lord said, buy the truth and sell it not. And how do you buy the truth? With your time. You know, the prophets are constantly putting out videos, constantly putting out knowledge, you know, constantly putting out edifying lessons. And the only thing that you got to do to buy into that knowledge is utilize your time. That's it. Utilize the leisure time that the Lord is giving you. That's all the Lord requires for you to obtain this knowledge, this wisdom, ultimately. If you've been given the gift of faith, that's all you need to do. But behind these hirelings and these charlatans, you know, it's always a paywall, man. And really their whole mission, whether they realize it or not, is to destroy. You know, they came in the spirit, it's like their father, the devil, man. And get that in John. Because really, whether they are conscious of it or subconsciously, their mission is to destroy the remnant of the or the nation of Israel. Further, this is John 10:10. The thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. But he that is a hireling and not the shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming and leaveth the sheep and fleeth. And the wolf catcheth them and scattereth the sheep. All right, and a lot of these people are hirelings, man. A lot of Jakes are hirelings. Or simply the wolf in sheep clothing that seek to take advantage of the Lord's sheep, man. They come to destroy, kill, and steal the liberty and the mercy that the Lord has given unto his sheep and capitalize off of it. You know, but I don't want to beat a dead horse, man. You know, I just want to make that quick point. Just as I was watching this video, man, I know it's a little bit all over the place, but he make a couple more points, man, that is interesting. But, you know, you can watch it for yourself. Lord, when it's edifying into your life.